Dr. Sara Silva is the principal investigator at the Computer Science and Engineering Research Center at the University of Lisbon in Portugal. She is the associate editor of important journals in the evolutionary computation field, and she is the creator of GPLAB, a quite used MATLAB genetic programming toolbox. In 2018, she received the EvoStar Award for Outstanding Contribution in the Evolutionary Computation in Europe. And in 2023, she is the General Chair of GECCO, that is the Genetic and Evolutionary Computation Conference, and she co-authored the recently published book, Lectures on Intelligent Systems by Springer. Welcome, Dr. Sara Silva. It's a pleasure to have you with us in this interview.
Thank you.
Well, I have heard that you always knew that you wanted to work with artificial intelligence. How did you hear about it, and how did you knew that that was your thing?
I didn't know it was public domain.
I have heard internet is like that nowadays.
Yeah, well, it's true. I am one of those lucky persons to know what I wanted to be from a very young age. You are too young to remember maybe, those books of the famous five by Enid Blyton. Everybody was reading those books at the time, and the father of one of the kids was a scientist, and nobody really knew what he did. It was something very important, and I thought that was fascinating. And I was probably 9 years old or something, and I thought, I want to be a scientist. I still didn't know what, but I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to work on important, very complicated things. And a few years forward, I don't recall how I heard about artificial intelligence, maybe with the books of Isaac Asimov, that I used to read a lot. Isaac Asimov is a visionary. I was reading those books in the 80s, and they had been written, some of them in the 60s or even the 50s, and some of the things that he had imagined were already happening. And I could see a world in which artificial intelligence was really something important.
Nice.
And then I remember one day I was watching TV and I saw an interview with Marvin Minsky, which was a big name in artificial intelligence, classic one. And I think that was the day I decided this is what I want to do. He was talking about crazy things, and I thought, wow, this is amazing.
Oh, that's nice, quite interesting.
That was it.
Yeah, but in the field of artificial intelligence, why did you choose to specialize in evolutionary computation?
Okay, I started with neural networks. That was my first love. Neural networks, not deep learning. There was no such thing as deep learning. I've been doing this for a long time. And then I had some classes on machine learning here at the university, and genetic algorithms were the thing that captured most of my interest. I still didn't know what genetic programming was, but it was this inspiration in nature and natural selection. I thought it was very, very cool.
Nice. It's an interesting path, because you have been passionate by what you were doing, and then you choose to do that no matter if it's difficult, complicated, and it's good.
Yeah, it's true.
Nice. And were you inspired by relevant figures in the evolutionary computation community?
When I found evolutionary computation, in particular genetic programming, I didn't know the community at all. Let me tell you how I found out. I was working, when I finished my master's, and I did my master's with neural networks in protein structure prediction. And then I finished the master's, and I knew I wanted to do a PhD one day, but I didn't know in what. So I started working in different projects with different grants, doing different things. And at the time, in the year of 2000, I think, I was working in a biomathematics group in a biological institute in Portugal. And I went to the USA as a visiting student for a couple of months to the Medical University of South Carolina. And I had time in my hands, and I went to the library once. And I knew I wanted to find a theme for my PhD, so I don't know how I found the books of John Koza, the first one on genetic programming, and the book by Wolfgang Banzhaf, the first one also, Introduction to Genetic Programming. And I took them with me and I started reading, and I think it took 5 or 6 pages to know this is it.
Wow.
It has to be this. I'm going to work on this. So when I returned to Portugal, I looked for some code of genetic programming, something in MATLAB. Why? Because this biomathematics group, it was a very diverse group from people from biology, chemistry, mechanical engineering, informatics, and our common language was at the time MATLAB. And I was looking to do something with genetic programming in MATLAB, and there was nothing. So I started programming, and it turned out to be the GPLAB toolbox after a few years. So I didn't know the community at the time.
Yeah.
Only later, when I got my first paper accepted in GECCO, I went to my first GECCO, and it was amazing because the people who had written those books were there in person. Nice. John Koza listened to my presentation, standing up because there were no more places to sit. Talk about pressure. Come on. This myth is there standing. I met Wolfgang Banzhaf, such a nice person, talking to the students, being so nice. It's such a nice community. And I remember before my presentation, the chair of my session was Una May. And I entered the room, which was still half empty. It was still early. And I was looking for Una May. I didn't know who I was looking for. I didn't know the faces of the people. And there was this lady sitting in the front row with a mini skirt. She was with folded legs, turned to the back, talking to somebody in the back. And then I understood, wow, this is Una May. And the mini skirt stayed in my mind because I still was not used to the temperature of an hotel in the USA. It was in Chicago. And it was freezing cold, 20 degrees less than outside. And there she was in a mini skirt, all relaxed, talking. Said, okay, good. And she was very nice to me. And
nice.
And yes, and then the next year she went to Portugal to EuroGP in Coimbra. And she took her 3 small kids, which was also amazing because she came to me and said, hey, Sara, look. And she was, the small kids, so beautiful, all of them. And she said, this is my serial experiment. And then she looked at the twins and said, and this is my parallel experiment. And she was a bit of a role model, yes, because she was a woman in this field with 3 kids. And she was able to do everything, career, family, everything.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, she's amazing, Nice, thank you. And well, your career is a bit different because you have always chosen to not hold a professor contract. So you work mainly as a research. Which is the main challenge of this choice?
I like your word, choice, because we don't choose what we want to be, but we choose if we want to follow that dream or not. And the biggest challenge is not having a permanent contract. At the time when I chose to do this, if I had known that 20, 25 years later, I would still not be able to have a career in research, I don't know if I would have chosen the same thing. Maybe, I don't know. At the time, I didn't think about it. I just followed my passion, and that was it.
Yeah, actually, of course, as everything in life, it has the good part and the difficult part.
Yeah.
But the main choices of life usually are not the easiest ones. So even though like now you are in a phase in which you may questionate yourself about this choice, of course that there in the past it was the best choice that you could do. So it was quite brave of yours to do this choice of being different, of doing something that was not that usual, like just do not follow the mainstream, but think about what you wanted to do, and it's very brave of yours.
Yeah. I don't know until when I'll be able to do it. Honestly.
Yeah, but things can change, and
I don't know. I'm applying to things again. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's
good luck.
Thank you.
You don't need luck, but good luck.
I do.
No. But so in this choice of yours, I think that from my point of view makes you to leave the entrepreneur side of the science to the extreme, because as scientists we have to, even professors, but all scientists, we have to raise and manage funds for the projects, we have to publicize the results, we have to captivate people who dreams the same dreams as us to work with us. So in essence, we have to work the opportunities for our own work. You do it to the extreme, but at least at some degree, all scientists have to do this. So do you agree that the scientists have a lot to do with entrepreneurs? How do you see this?
Well, first of all, the professors are supposed to also do that, besides teaching. So let's not just put it in, oh, you are a researcher, you have to do this. No, they also have to do it. The difference is that if they fail on that, they still have their salary at the end of the month, and I may not have it. But I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. I don't even know how to say this word.
It's a tough one. Entrepreneurship.
I get the idea that we make our own goals, our own. Yeah, it's true. The difference is we are not trying to create something to make money. When I propose a new idea, a new work plan, I must guarantee that I have a salary for myself. I try to guarantee that I have money for a team, for students at least, but not for making money. So I don't know how close it is to actually having a company. I never regarded myself as someone with that spirit.
Yeah, what I see that the similar part I think that we have in common with entrepreneurs is that, like just it, we have to create the opportunities for our own work, because if you have your own company and you have, of course, this difference that you are running it for money, but you have to create the opportunity for your own business, and our business is doing research. So this side, but of course the main goal is different. And as I said, maybe if you have another contract that guarantees you the minimum with a permanent contract with university, you do not take to the extreme this challenge part of rising and funds and managing the funds of your project.
Yeah. I'm not actually managing any project right now. I have not been very lucky with my proposals.
Okay.
I've been thinking a bit too much outside the box, I think. My proposals have not been accepted lately.
What a shame, because this the courage and the capacity of thinking outside the box, I think that's what we need in science, right?
I have applied to an ERC 3 years ago, and now again They are the ones who want high risk, high gain proposals, and I can safely say that my proposal 3 years ago was too high risk for ERC. I don't know. I hope this year they will see that.
I hope
it can
so
actually
too.
be done.
Mm-hmm. So you have all this experience in applying for proposals, and for the students that are just starting to learn how to apply to it, which is your main advice for them when they want to apply for grant proposals?
Okay, I have evaluated a lot of grants also, and I think it's important that you have to put yourselves in the evaluator's shoes. You cannot assume the evaluator knows everything that you know, that the evaluator knows your motivations, your passion, if you want to say it like this. There is a reason why proposals normally ask for a motivation letter, and this should be very important. You should really explain why you are applying to this, why you are proposing a certain work plan, because the evaluator should know you a little bit, not just your CV.
Okay.
Because some things may not make a lot of sense if they don't know who you are, where you come from, and what you want to achieve.
Okay.
I think that's important.
Very nice advice. Thank you. Which are your main current research interests?
I'm going through a midlife academic crisis, I think, because I'm in this phase in which I find many things boring. Like, it's more of the same, not interesting. It's a terrible thing to say, but as general chair of GECCO, I see the titles of the submissions, and it's like, okay, come on, people, why don't you have new ideas? It's not nice for me to say it. I must be getting really old, because I used to be like that, and of course all research is interesting, and maybe what we are missing is at some higher level taking everything good that has been done, all these small things, and put them together and make them work with each other. And machine learning has so many tools, and I think we keep developing new ones while not making the most of the ones we already have. So right now I'm interested in interpretability. I don't like the way we are going with deep learning and with mega black box models. I think we need to move away from that. I think we will have to move away from that, because the laws will not allow certain decisions by certain algorithms if they cannot be fully explained. So of course I'm sticking with genetic programming that I love, but not just that. I feel in order to achieve simplicity in our models, we cannot keep using these mega data sets and expect that a single model can explain all that. I think we have to understand our data, look at our feature spaces, create new feature spaces, feature engineering, which seems to be the secret for many successes. Change your feature space, split your feature space, model each part of your feature space with a different model, with a different method. In some parts you may need only a simple decision tree, in other parts you may need something more complex. Understand what you're doing and why. I'm also very interested, it's related to this, in having models that are robust to outliers and errors in the data, in the labels of the data. Your labels will have errors, and you need to have methods that do not try to learn those errors. Do not mess up the model because they are trying to learn something that the model itself should know. This is not correct. I will not model this. So I'm very interested in these subjects.
Yeah, thank you. They are quite interesting. areas, of course, in both quite applicable and quite important for society also.
Let's hope some evaluators like my ideas, because this is what I have been proposing lately.
Nice. So you have just published a book with Dr. Leonardo Vaneschi. What's the book about and where is it available?
Available in every bookstore near you or far away from you online. Yes, the book is about, it has two parts, optimization and machine learning. And how is it different from other books? Well, one of the main differences is that we are explaining this in our own terms. We are not just repeating the way that everybody else explains the same things. The book has some explanations that you will not find anywhere else. We are also defining a pipeline for machine learning, from data to model, how to do it properly, avoiding data leakage, and how to properly evaluate the real quality of a model. And another thing is that normally when you see books about machine learning, you don't see evolutionary computation a lot. Sometimes they mention genetic algorithms. They almost never mention genetic programming. It's like genetic programming is also an outsider in machine learning. And in this book, we treat evolutionary computation with all the importance that it has. So you don't, so until now, I think you either buy a book on evolutionary computation or a book on machine learning that almost doesn't refer to evolutionary computation. And here you have it side by side with other methods.
Nice, nice.
We need this.
And from what I know from this material, this part that you said that you are explaining with your own words, it's very nice, very good, and very valuable because with the experience that you have working, but also talking with students, sometimes to hear that thing that way makes everything clear. It's a quite important and interesting book. Thank you.
I like simple explanations.
Yeah, but to arrive there, it's not that easy. You have to have deep knowledge and experience in explaining. Then you arrive there, and that's why it is so valuable.
Thank you.
And in what position would you like to see the species society in the future?
Well, as I said, when I entered the evolutionary computation community, I came from outside, and I didn't even enter through an advisor. I didn't have an advisor in that area. So what I saw of evolutionary computation was what I found on the internet. And at the time, there was this thing called EvoNet that was already dying or dead, but it was still a major source of information for me, who didn't know anything about it. I got to know other important names of the community, like Mark Schonauer, for example. I got to know which were the conferences on this area, and it really, really helped me at the time. If there was no EvoNet at the time, I don't know if I would have been able to really get into the community. And I think the Species Society should really do what EvoNet was doing back then. And I think it's great that summer schools are being organized again. And I truly hope that species will be very important for anyone in the evolutionary computation community, or anyone who wants to know more about it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything that I didn't ask but you would like to share with us, or to?
It's a very nice community, the evolutionary computation community. Because of my interdisciplinary, I have contacted with other communities, and I can tell you that we are a very nice bunch of people. Come work in theme, because now Google has discovered also evolutionary computation, and I hope it will not be an outsider area for much longer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, for this interview. It was really nice to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.